my first story is called Sunday Sauce. A kid could lose an eye, a tooth, break a nose, fracture a shin, lop off a finger, suffer a concussion at Sunday dinners at my grandparents' house in Brooklyn. We 6, 7, 8, 9-year-old grandchildren, whose second-generation woodworking skills extended to gluing model balsa wood airplanes, made boxes, fruit and vegetable boxes for Grandpa's produce carting business. We hammered, sawed, foiled for the newest, sharpest, shiniest tools. Our mothers policed us from the kitchen windows. Watch your fingers! Put that down! Stop hitting your brother or get in the house! They waited for the blood, praying for none, wondering if Methodist or Kings County Hospital was closest if one of us should sever an artery. Sometimes we took apart boxes, sliding the claw ends of our hammers between wooden slats, pulling up and back until the sides of the box separated. Then we clawed out the rusty nails with an uncle, now at the window in place of the mothers, commanding, "A, logical loops, don't bend the nails." Then another uncle, "Pick the nails up off the ground," and yet another uncle, "Put them in the cigar box in the shed," and yet another, "Ace, do not, put the tools away, pasta's ready." We flew to the kids' table, running right through that back door, and got in there and were wedged in a corner by the pantry. The first ones there got the chairs by the door. Unlucky losers squeezed to the back end of the table, locked between kitchen cabinets, doomed to crawl under the table and zigzag between swinging feet in Buster Brown lace-ups and Mary Jane's if the bathroom called. No matter. We took our kicks and punches. Grandma's spaghetti and meatballs were worth it. We kneeled on our chairs and battled for the ladle in the sauce bowl. We never, ever, ever, ever called it gravy. We did not twirl our spaghetti on our forks. We scooped it up, stuffed it in our mouths, and sucked up the dangling strands. Spaghetti slapped our cheeks, tomato sauce freckling our face and clothes. 10 minutes later, plates cleaned, we roared in unison, "May we please be excused?" Never waiting for an answer, we bolted for the back door, the shed, the tools, and got back to making boxes. At least until the cannoli were served. My grandparents were really poor, and I kind of never knew that. So this piece is called What I Did Not See as a Child. I didn't see that the vinyl tablecloth was peeling, that the curtains were lopsided, none of the plates matched, the knives, forks, and spoons either, that the inside of the house had never been painted, the trees never trimmed, that the bathroom had been an outhouse until my uncles grew up, moved out, and came home again on weekends to DIY it into a hot and cold running water bathroom with sink, tub, shower, and toilet. A little smudged glass window and walls were quilted together from wood, salvaged from the sides of a collapsed shed, and a patchwork of boards from vegetable and fruit crates, still bearing the Andy Boy and California orange stickers. The wood was now so old and dry, those stickers were never peeling off. To add a touch of class, a rainbow of linoleum remnants covered the floor that dipped in the middle and was never warm. I did not see any of this as a child. I saw my grandparents' house. This is called Immune Systems. Medical researchers love disease clusters. My Italian-American family is one. Among my mother and her 10 siblings, and roughly, I think I had almost 30 cousins, there have been multiple cases of Cooley's anemia, rheumatoid arthritis, systemic lupus erythematosus, and a host of other autoimmune diseases. There was very little known about these diseases in the 1960s. I was about 16, I think, when my uncle ended up in Columbia Presbyterian Hospital. He was very sick, and he was eventually diagnosed with lupus. He told the RASLE specialist that one of his sisters also had it, and she also suffered with Cooley's anemia. That brilliant young doctor saw an opportunity in my uncle's sad story and asked if his parents, brothers and sisters, and their children and grandchildren, whoever, would participate in an RASLE research project. Everyone in my family said yes. If the research would help, they'd schlep into Manhattan and give their blood gladly. I was so excited. Yippee! A science experiment! And a trip to Manhattan. Well, at least to a parking garage and the hospital diagnostic lab. We set a date and time. We all showed up, encamped in the hospital sitting room, and suddenly it was a party room. Over 30 of us, drinking sodas and coffee, and talking about this and that, and our fear of needles, and bad veins, at a volume only Neapolitans can reach without even trying. One by one, our names were called, and we each marched into the doctor's cubicles, and rolled up our sleeves, sat for interviews about medical symptoms and history, signed paperwork, and learned that some of our blood would be used immediately and some of it frozen for ongoing study. And when it was over, of course, we went out for Italian food.
Yeah.
One of my uncles knew a guy who knew a local place that could fit all of us for dinner. We ate. We compared the restaurant's meatballs to my grandmother's meatballs, the gold standard against which all of her daughters and daughter-in-law's meatballs were measured. We talked about suspicious rashes, aches, and pains we were afraid to tell anyone we had, about bone weariness, swelling, and lupus treatments and their side effects. Between the crunching of our cannolis, an uncle asked the assembled group, "Did the doctor tell you?" Everybody stopped chewing, and mouths full chimed, "What?" That uncle nodded and cracked a crooked grin. The doctor told me, heavy emphasis on the me, that our family was the largest family cohort to participate in this research. Pride, not sadness, that we were bound by 2 potentially deadly diseases, around the restaurant. Even the kids were smiling, crooked, ironic grins. I'm telling you, if we had suspenders, we would have snapped them. We mattered. We were more than poor immigrants who ate foods with names so-called real Americans couldn't pronounce, and cheeses they said smelled like toe jam, who were assumed to be in the mafia or unhinged because we talked with our hands. We were medical celebrities. And this is my last one for now. The sign of the cross. I lived under perpetual threat of crucifixion. Really, every day. Other parents threatened their rambunctious and unruly children with slaps, smacks, and the occasional, "I'm gonna kill you." My mother had a flair for the dramatic. "If you don't stop doing that right now, if you don't do your homework, if you don't dry those dishes, Barbara Ann, I'm gonna crucify you." Linda was horrified. The image of me and my brother nailed to crosses being dragged through the streets of Massapequa Park until finally propped up on our front lawn seemed too brutal. Somehow worse than a quick and simple homicide. Crucifixion. Bah! I shrugged it off. An empty threat. My mother didn't keep a stack of 2x4s in the garage, or have nails long and strong enough to hammer us into place. Before I start reading, I just have to say that Linda's dad and my mom, in addition to be really happy and proud of what we're doing here tonight, would probably be saying, "Oh my God, what are they going to say now?" We were always in trouble. My Way is my first story. My Way. Those words and that song are everywhere lately. Giorgio Armani has a new perfume named My Way. The song, sans Sinatra singing, and sometimes with a heavy metal or rap arrangement, is in a number of commercials too, from cars to, of all things, Cologuard, the do-it-yourself alternative to a colonoscopy. I imagine the renewed interest in this song, which had kind of been a little bit of a joke for a while, is to jump on the diversity, gender identity, and freedom movement bandwagon. The things I forever associate with My Way are Sinatra's version of this song and singing it after eating enormous amounts of food at every major family get-together. We were big singers, guitarists, and accordion players in my Italian-American family, bringing whatever instrument you played, sheet music, and maracas or tambourines for other guests was mandatory for gatherings of La Familia. Shock, I remember, resonated through my grandparents' kitchen when we learned Paul Anka, not Italian-American, wrote the lyrics to My Way. Then the grown-ups all agreed, if Sinatra was singing the song, Anka had to be good. On the line, regrets, I've had a few grandparents, parents, aunts, and uncles looked at each other or at their hands remorsefully or shook their heads when the song got to, but then again, too few to mention, their shoulders lifted. They smiled. God bless Sinatra and Anka. They'd given my family permission to mess up and go on without guilt. The last two verses brought booming, dramatic voices in a moment of collective catharsis. Everyone belted out, let the record show, I took the blows and did it my way. A few people cried. There was nose blowing, followed by the retelling of woulda, coulda, shoulda stories. All acts of confession and absolution. Pre-wedding nerves. It is 1957 in Massapequa Park, or as it is known across Long Island, Mazza Pizza, after the predominantly Jewish and Italian-American GIs who bought modified Cape Cods there after World War II. It is 8 p.m. Friday night. Dinner done, dishes done, my dad showered and dressed after a day of laying metal lath for some bridge or building, is snoring in his checkered, early American easy chair in the television room. My mom screeches from the master bedroom, "Hon, where are your good shoes and belt?" No answer. Dad is still snoring. "Damn him," she grumbles, and returns to draping my 4-year-old brother Frank's tie around the shoulders of his Sunday best white shirt already on a hanger. His belt hangs from the head of the hanger. Gray pants are folded and slung over the crossbar underneath. Frank's socks, shoes, underwear, and handkerchief go in an Alitalia overnight bag some crew chief gave our dad when he was on a construction job at JFK Airport. "Franklin," my mother bellows, and Dad is awake. "I've got your suit and shirt in the garment bag. Where are your good shoes and belt?" Dad yawns and shuffles into the bedroom and retrieves both items. He hooks the belt on the hanger with his suit and shirt. His shoes go in a brown paper grocery bag, and with socks, underwear, pajamas, and the family's toothpaste, toothbrush, and 4 towels are stuffed in the Alitalia bag. Mom and I share a round pink valise. There's a zipper that goes all the way around and a mirror inside. Oh, so fabulous. Our white patent leather shoes are wrapped in tissues. So are our white gloves. Underwear and t-shirt for me, bra and girdle for Mom are piled on top, along with a makeup bag, shower cap, pajamas, hairbrushes, embroidered hankies, a large and small evening bag, and a bottle of April in Paris. So fabulous. My dress is on a hanger covered with a pillowcase. It's handmade by my mother, originally for my communion. Organdy, hand-stitched, tiered skirts, crinolines underneath, and it is the most beautiful thing I have ever owned. My mom's dark auburn hair is in rollers, covered with some wannabe Gucci scarf. She sniffs my head to see if the tomate smell is still hanging around after my home permanent that morning. Okay, no stink, she pats me on the cheek. We won't have to wash your hair again tomorrow morning, thank God. Frank, my little brother, is already in his pajamas and slippers, me too. Luggage in the trunk, we load bottles of water, cookies, crackers, pillows, and blankets into the back seat. 9 p.m., we're on the road. 10 p.m., we're at 19th Street. Frank, asleep, gets carried in and upstairs to the pull-out bed. I'm still awake. I'm too excited. I get to stay up with my aunt, the bride-to-be, my mother and grandmother. I am 7 and a half. This is a rite of passage. At 11:30, I'm asleep at the kitchen table, head on my folded arms. Thank God for the tomate. My hair will spring back in the morning, but it will stink of cigarette smoke. Saturday, 7 a.m., the women are up. My grandmother is in her going up the avenue housecoat and mules. The bride, my mother and me, are dressed in pedal pushers, short sweaters, and ballet flats. The grown-ups down cups of strong black coffee. We all gobble up crumb buns before we go to the beauty parlor. The rest of the bridal party will meet us there. My mother, rollers still in her hair, is not getting her hair done. She prefers the natural look, not the Brooklyn helmet head and Cleopatra eyeliner of the 1950s. She's there to supervise my grandmother's set in style and chin and lip wax. Skipping from one aunt's sitting in a beautician's chair to another, I watch the teasing and the spraying and the manicuring. Again, so fabulous. I do not watch the chin and lip wax. Not fabulous at all. Then, us girls are back at the house, inhaling clouds of cologne and coffee and cigarettes, surrounded by billowing crinolines and brocade and crepe. My mother dresses me and fluffs up my tomette. The men take to the back bedroom to get into their tuxes. My uncle dresses his father, my father dresses my brother. The limos come, one for the bride and her attendants, one for the groomsmen. The women walk down the creaking wooden staircase and into the waiting car. Neighbors wave and applaud. The limos go. We squeeze Grandma and Grandpa into the back seat of our car and drive to St. John's Roman Catholic Church. Everything is beautiful. Everyone is happy. And my dad, brother, and I can't wait for the reception and the Flaming Cherries Jubilee. This really happened, this story. It's called No Escape. The London New English Library and Pan crowd, editors, copy editors, art directors, proofreaders, and readers like me, hung out on Fridays after work in a pub on the Fulham Road. Nick, the editor-in-chief of both those venerable publishing houses at one time in his career, was a good friend and took me on as a freelancer. I made more friends, women in publishing. One of those Fridays in the pub, I met this woman, Nikki. All my friends at Pan had been nattering on about introducing us certain we'd-be besties immediately. Nikki, like me, was American, a New Yorker, born in Brooklyn, and living in London. After World War I, and before he turned 40, my grandfather was in a business partnership of sorts with this guy, Nick the Greek. My grandfather, known as Italian Patty to the guys on the street, owned a trucking company. Really, it was one rattling truck. It might have been a Mack. We nicknamed it Bessie, and it had wooden planks on the sides, and it hardly ever wanted to start. But Grandpa and Nick the Greek worked together because Nick had vegetable barrows, and he and my grandfather made regular visits to Hunts Point Produce Market, loaded vegetables and fruits into the boxes that were built in my grandfather's shed in the backyard on 19th Street, hauled them home in my grandfather's truck, loaded them into Nick's barrows, and then sold them on the streets of Brooklyn and split the profits. Nick, like my grandfather, had a huge family. So now, back to the pub on the Fulham Road. Nikki and I are having the where are you from conversation. Nikki, I'm from South Brooklyn. Me, Oh wow, that's where my mother's family lived, 19th Street. Nikki, seriously? My mother's family lived on the same block. Me. My grandfather had a trucking and carting company. Nikki. Really? My grandfather worked with this guy? Wait. What was your grandfather's name? Pasquale. Pat Nardone. Oh my God, your grandfather was Italian Patty? My grandfather was Nick the Greek. We talked for a few minutes, celebrated the connection, and moved on. We waved to each other in public publishing events, but all invites from me to Nikki for lunch went unanswered. I have a feeling that she, like me, was happy to have moved 3,000 miles away and wanted to leave some things behind. My mother was an exceptionally good seamstress. Everybody in my family loved music and dancing. We were all musical and all good dancers, with the exception of my father and brother. But anyway, staying alive. It was love at first sight when my mother saw John Travolta as Sweat Hog Vinnie Barbarino in Welcome Back, Kotter. After he catapulted to global fame in Saturday Night Fever, he earned near Frank Sinatra status in my mother's eyes. And that's saying something, because my teenage mother spent a lot of Saturday nights at the Paramount Theater screaming herself silly at Sinatra concerts. Oh, I love his swagger, my mother would say when Travolta strutted into a room, tilted his head and his blue eyes twinkled. That smile, that cleft chin, that's because he's Italian. They, my mother used the collective pronoun to cite culture vultures to add authority to facts she shared, say his dancing's as good as Fred Astaire's and Gene Kelly's. Dancing was important in my family. My mother and her brother, Michael, used to take to the floor nearly every Saturday night at a club in Brooklyn. They were good. Peabody and Jitterbug champions before Michael shipped out to fight in World War II. Of even greater importance to my mother was being Italian. John Travolta could dance, number one. He was Italian, number two. He was touched by genius as far as my mother was concerned, and I think she would have adopted him if she could. Christmas, 1977, my brother, sister, father, and I found little boxes with 14-karat gold Italian horns, corno fortuna pendants under the tree. We were safe from the evil eye. My father and brother also got disco shirts. Those shiny, tight-fitting polyester shirts John Travolta wore, dancing his way into my mother's heart. But the best was yet to come from the men in my family. Leisure suits. They were hot by Easter 1978. They're what they're all wearing, including John Travolta, my mother professed. An accomplished seamstress, she ran up on her Sears sewing machine polyester leisure suits for my brother and father. One in lilac, the other in powder blue. Somewhere in our attic there is a picture of the two of them, my father who wore anything my mother told him to wear, and my hippie professional musician brother with shoulder-length hair standing side by side in their suits and matching disco shirts like models on the Simplicity sewing pattern. My mother did her last jitterbugging in Christmas 2004. I miss her every day and laugh when I imagine what she would say if she saw John Travolta now without his luxurious black Italian hair. The fabric of life. My friend Jane's mother was very chic, and she loved gold. Gold everything, gold everywhere. One Christmas, she redecorated their bathroom. Gold-soaked dish, cup, toothbrush holder, gold-toned faucets for the sink and the shower, gold-toned outlet plates, and a gold lame shower curtain. I used the bathroom. I came out. Jane rolled her eyes. We're having the whole family for Christmas, and my mother's redoing everything. Oh, I bubbled. I love big Italian Christmases. Jane shook her head. We're not Italian, we're German. I had not yet experienced the giddy gaudiness of castles in Germany. Gold-toned bathroom hardware and accessories, in my experience, was the home decor of choice for Italians, usually Neapolitans who blended in Brooklyn. My family was not a gold-in-the-bathroom family, but in the living room, we were all in. Even my Dutch-German father, whose parents' home decor could only be described as American Gothic without the sense of humor. Roma furniture, with branches in Brooklyn, Queens, Staten Island, and Long Island, was my extended family's mecca for mid-century Italian provincial furnishings. We could choose from an array of the understatedly elegant to the over-the-top, think Liberace on steroids, furniture, lighting, art, and knickknacks. My mother and father opted for what they labeled understated elegance with a touch of gold here and there. They bought, for 24 easy monthly payments, there were no credit cards back then, a white and gold brocade sectional sofa with Florentine wooden legs and trim, a Queen Air aqua and gold chair, walnut side and coffee tables, white porcelain lamps with gold speckles, brocade drapes, 3 paintings, a dining room table, 6 chairs, and a china closet. All of this furniture was to sit on top of a medium olive green cut loop carpet of swirls and vines. We waited 12 weeks for the furniture delivery. My mother had tossed the old stuff the minute she'd signed the installment agreement. We did, luckily, have the new carpet installed pretty quickly, so we could sit on pillows on the floor. When the furniture finally arrived, my parents were so happy and proud. They'd never had anything this nice before. And I loved it. I'm making it sound awful, but it was really quite pretty. Then the plastic slip covers arrived. Yeah. Custom made, installed in our house, protection from us kids and my father. We sweated and stuck to that plastic when we sat on the sofa chair. In the summer, it ripped from our thighs like giant farts when we stood up. Once my parents thought we were old enough to appreciate nice things, I think I was 30 by then, and they decided to move to Florida. The plastic that had protected those cushions for about 16 years came off. The white and gold brocade fabric on the sectional, along with the stuffing, crumbled to dust, destroyed by the humidity from being encased in plastic. My mother cried. She loved that sectional. It was the one piece of furniture she wanted to take with them when they moved. I felt really sorry for her. She decided to take the dining room set, the lamps, end tables, paintings, and knickknacks instead. She reupholstered the dining room chair cushions, this time in a pretty floral pattern. No gold brocade anymore. Its time had come and gone, and she was ready to move on.